What's up everybody, Alex here, and welcome to the Dota Underlords Best Builds of the Week, the weekly series where I show you guys some of the best builds in the current Dota Underlords meta. Now this meta, right after the Jull update, is all about Scrappies, and you know what? I know most of you guys are probably sick of Scrappies, but Scrappies, they are the #1 build right now. I expect them to get nerfed, so this week I expect the team at Valve to really do some work, but right now, Jull's also the best Underlord right now. Just such an amazing tank, great sustain, especially with Scrappies. The Jull and Scrappy combination with the amount of health regeneration and armor is just too much. It's too much. It has to get toned down. I can see Jull getting adjusted slightly, but it's the Scrappies that need to get fixed. Dragon Knight and Snapfire are must-haves in the build as well. They cannot be subbed out for anyone else. The DPS provided by Terrorblade is too much to pass up, but what you're doing is you're protecting Snapfire and Dragon Knight and just letting the Scrappies survive. This is a sustained build. It's a build that just does not go down, especially with Jull. You can also use an Essex support here as well, but Jull's just fantastic in this build. It is unbelievable, but it's highly contested, so if you see 4 or 5 people going Scrappies, which is not uncommon, stay away from it and use one of these next builds instead. If you're looking for a way to counter Scrappies, might I suggest Warlocks. You're going to be looking for either support an Essex or support Jull in this situation, but what you're doing here is you're getting Warlocks. It's basically similar to Scrappies in the sense that you are healing and sustaining that heal. That's why we have the Healing Alliance present there for the improvement on the Warlock healing effect. We also have our Ace of Warlocks, the Disruptor, who is going to be basically adding an additional healing effect to the overall alliance. And what you're looking at here is Shadow Fiend position in order to maximize his damage potential. Warlock providing some meat shielding for the Shadow Fiend. Warlock, even at 2 stars, is 2100 health. Shadow Fiend, people often are surprised to find out he only has 1300 health. That's about half of Warlock. So if you switch them, there's a good chance the Shadow Fiend will die before he actually gets his cast off, especially since his casting animation, he gets full mana, and he actually kind of does a build up, a wind up, so to speak. So you got to make sure Shadow Fiend is protected. Overall, a very good build, but one thing of note, you're probably saying, Alex, Sven, why is Sven there? Sven's a weird pickup. Now, the reason why Sven is being used is because Sven, he adds to the scaled effect, which again, because we're trying to heal and sustain our team in this build, we want that scaled effect. You could use Slardar as well, but Sven is better. No one is using Sven, and if you can get like a butterfly on Sven, he will do an absolute amazing amount of damage. You can very easily get Sven to 2 stars. If you don't have a Sven at 2 stars and you don't pull him, use Slardar instead. That's totally fine. You can even add Medusa to this build if you want, but at the end of the day, I find Sven to be completely unused. He's not great, but if you can get an amazing item on him, he will do work for you. Alright, so the third build of the week, we're looking at Druids and Brutes. I still think Druids and Brutes are utterly fantastic. They are so good. Lone Druid is absolutely fantastic. I love Lone Druid. Doom is being underutilized as well. Lifestealer is an absolute carry. In this circumstance, right, we have Io set up with the Dragon Knight. We could easily do that as well. You know what? Now that I look at this, I might like this better because, you know, you're on Lifestealer or Snapfire or Dragon Knight. Honestly, either of those options are fantastic for DPS. But what you're doing here is you're obviously protecting your Dragon Knight and your Snapfire. They are your primary damage dealers in this situation. Doom's on the edge here to protect your squishies there. Axe, fantastic. His silence effect is very useful. And again, Jull up front, you're gonna have a lot of kind of healing occurring with Jull there. His ultimate, especially with the barrels, right? You're gonna provide a lot of debuffs to the enemy team while doing a lot of damage. This is a great build because it has a lot of value. The only thing that can hold this build back is the fact that Snapfire and Dragon Knight are both highly contested units. You might have a hard time getting them to Dragon Knight to 2 stars because of the fact that they are auto include-ins in the current Scrappy builds, as I showed you with the first build. So that is the one major detriment to this build, the fact that those 2 dragons might be hard to get. So please keep that in mind. All right, in the next build of the week, we've got our Savages and our Hunters, and this is a very good build because Savages have recently been buffed. And what you're gonna have here is you're gonna be able to use one of my favorite units in the game, Bristleback. Bristleback's Quill Spray is absolutely unbelievable. The amount of damage you can do with Bristleback is completely ridiculous. Sand King, his stun effect is fantastic as well. Terrorblade and Lycan, great DPS units. And again, you're going Hobgoblin here, and you're hoping to get his attack speed. I'm not as interested in friendly fire, but if you can, if you can get kind of go, let's go crazy. That's really what you want here. You want to improve the amount of attacks that savages are doing, and that's why we have our hunter buff here, because we want them, especially Lycan. And that's why he's on the edge. We're protecting Lycan a bit. We don't want him here. We want him here because he's less likely to get impacted or go down first. You want Lycan to build up his DPS over time with the Savage buff and with the fact that he's quickly performing 2 attacks. So anyways, a very good build. Weaver here, because if he gets jumped, once he starts taking damage, he will slither away, and Hobgoblin, that'll give Hobgoblin enough time to survive long enough to cast his friendly fire. You don't want to do something like this, because if Hobgoblin gets jumped by assassins, which are not very commonly used right now, you don't want Hobgoblin going down before he casts his ult, because that is, if your Underlord dies before they cast their ult, it's basically a death knell to your strategy, so ensure that your Underlord at least casts their ultimate. Overall, a very good build, one that's doing a good job in the current meta, especially with the buff to savages. The only tricky thing is, though, is, you have to make sure that you're pulling Lycan and Terrorblade relatively early, and you get them to 2 stars, because Enchantress and Weaver and Tusk will not hold the early game for very long. So you kind of are relying on Lycan and Terrorblade, especially for the mid game. And for the final build of the week, we're hitting Scrappies with one thing they just simply cannot counter, and that is magic. Now, their armor is not going to help them against magic, and what you're doing here is you're protecting your rear line with Earth Spirit, Coccia, and Jull. 3 meaty heroes. Morphling's great up front. You can put Morphling here if you want. Once he gets enough mana, he's going to splash away with his waveform, so he's going to be okay. Maiden, I would like to see a better unit than Maiden. Kind of the best choice we have in this situation. I mean, you could theoretically take Maiden out. Why? Get out of here. You can take Maiden out, do something like this, and have Ogre Magi there instead. You can even do something like this if you want to kind of help Jull stay up. That's what I would like better. You can definitely do something like this as well if you don't want to use Maiden. That's good too. It kind of beefs up your front line, especially if you're finding that the opposing team is walking through into your squishies. But overall, what you're doing is you're protecting your Keeper of the Light. You're baiting any Pudge pulls with Storm Spirit. If there's no Pudge, what you're going to do is you're going to put Keeper of the Light there, and you're actually going to move Storm Spirit about... I would do this. Actually, what would I do? I would do this. Yes, I would. This is what I would do if I had to move Storm Spirit without a Pudge. But long story short, what you're doing is you're trying to protect your Keeper of the Light, because Keeper of the Light's going to do an incredible amount of DPS. That's what you want. Scrappies tend to be built into like corner comps, where they're kind of, blocked into one section with each other. A lot of teams are doing that. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to hit them hard with Keeper of the Light, because they're going to be bunched up. Coccia's stun is going to be fantastic against those bunched up Scrappies. Earth Spirit's going to be hitting them good. And then once again, you have Morphling and Storm Spirit who are going to be moving through them, right? We're countering the idea that Scrappies, first of all, are not resistant to magic, and the fact that they bunch up. Right, their units are very bunch-centric. Thank you for watching, and a special thank you to all my subscribers. Take care, everyone, and best of luck in Dota Underlords.